Hello everyone, Ceri Griffiths here, or as you also know me, Ceri the Crafter. So it's that time of month again. It's the last one of the year as well. It's Ask Ceri. Now, for those of you who have not come across this before, what I normally do is about once every 6 months, I put a shout out on my community tab on my YouTube channel and say, are there any questions you want to ask me? You can ask anything. I just reserve the right to answer them or not, because there are certain things I'm not going to talk about. Now, and saying that, actually, I think it'll either be February or March, I'm going to be doing another shout out, so watch out for that. So then I take 10 of those questions and I answer them each month. Now, some questions will always be repeated, things like, what are your favorite craft tools? What's your favorite color combinations? What's your favorite time of year? Things like that. I will always answer them because I never know whether this is the only one you're ever going to watch. And also, as time goes by, my tastes change and things I discover change. So let's just jump straight in and see what they are. Now, I've had a quick glance over these, but I haven't really thought too much. I've just done it and turned on the camera because then it's more of a real answer. Not that I'd make one up anyway. Okay. First question, what style of clothes do you prefer? A lot of that would be, when did you ask me? Let's see, what is it? I think in about 2.5 weeks' time, I'm 65 years old. So I've got to that point in my life where I'm more about comfortable clothes. Because YouTube and creativity is now my only income and my only job besides designing for PM Artist Studio, I've got to the point where there are some days I will get up in the morning, I'll put my robe on, and maybe I won't get dressed till 2 in the afternoon. Oh, shock, horror. But it is what it is. It's like, I don't have to, almost shaking the table, sorry about that. I don't have to get dressed to impress anymore. In my previous career, where I was a dancer, singer, actor, there were the inevitable black tie do's, there were red carpet events, things like that, where I had to dress up. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. I like wearing a tux. I always took great pride in the fact that I could tie a bow tie and I didn't have to have a clip on. I always used to like to have a nice waistcoat under my tuxedo. I've never ever in my life been one of those people who's a fashionista, if that's the right word nowadays. I was never on trend, I was never on point. I basically wore what I wanted to wear, although I was never someone who wanted to make a statement or stand out. I think my wardrobe was pretty much dictated by budget, so therefore it was always practical, simple, clean lines, stylish, and sometimes timeless as well. Nowadays, I'm pretty much living in t-shirts, hoodies, and sweatpants or jeans. I'm always looking for comfortable footwear. I'm over wearing footwear that's cramped or hard to walk in or anything, because all of those years of dancing, and it's just really, I had enough of footwear by the time that was done. So, and I quite like hats as well. And not because I'm bald or balding or whatever you want, receded to the point of non-existence. I genuinely do like wearing a baseball hat. I think that could harken back to when I lived in America, mind you. It could even harken back further when I was a dancer. I was living in baseball hats because it was just easier just to stick a baseball hat on and go to rehearsals and stuff like that. There was actually a time, probably about mid-90s, and I was always wearing bandanas because back then I still had hair. Oh, that's another surprise. And when I was dancing, I used to perspire. So instead of having sweat running into my eyes, I used to tie a bandana around my head, like fully over the top, tied to that. And I used to love them. And it was funny because quite a lot of people started wearing them when I started wearing them in the cast. So yeah, so it depends on when you ask. I would say probably stylish and timeless is the thing I would aim for if I was going out. But if I'm in the house, comfort, comfort, comfort. You'd even find me in PJs early evening if I really felt like I wanted to just curl up with the dog and watch a movie. Hopefully that answered that. How often do you rearrange your craft room? Ooh. I have been heard to say many a time that my studio here, or my creative space, my craft room, whatever you wish to label it, for me, I try to use the word studio because then that respects myself, but I then feel like an artist within my workspace and creative space. So I'm now calling it a studio because it helps me accept who I have become. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, how often do I rearrange? But for me, my studio is a living space. Pretty much the only thing that doesn't move is my workbench on which I film, which is right in front of my window, which is right there. And that is for practicality's sake. It has to be here. It's got the best lighting. Why would I move it somewhere else? However, every other thing in this room has probably been moved several times in its existence and will continue to move. I'm one of these people, if I'm working on a long-term project or I'm following a trend or a theme or a style or something like that, if I don't move the furniture around, I move the resources and supplies within that furniture so that it can be closer to me. I very much, when I create, like to be as if I was on the bridge of the Starship Enterprise. I like everything within hand's reach. I like to just stand and create. So as much as I can, everything is around me. And even in my studio, I have a small foldable table, a bit like a card table or a picnic table. I also have a 6-foot long foldable collapsible table as well. And I will very much set them up around me, almost hemming me into my creative space. Because if I'm working on, say, a series of 4 or 5 videos, doing a collaboration or a long-term project, I want stuff around me. I want to not have to dig into stuff. I like surfaces. For me, the most important commodity in my studio is surfaces. I always need them. Things always need to be on a surface of some sort. Hopefully that answered that one. Right, next one. Have you ever joined a monthly crafts subscription service such as My Creative Studio that sends you regular boxes of ephemera through the mail? I must admit I've tried them but couldn't cope with the backlog of stuff I was acquiring with no real say as to the theme of each box. I never have. It doesn't appeal to me. I don't, for me, I have enough resources around me. If I was to have a monthly subscription, I would very quickly feel overwhelmed by the amount of supplies. And then because I'm spending money on that subscription, I would then feel obligated to use those supplies. And that would start to dominate my creativity. So I wouldn't be creating stuff going, right, what shall I make today and how shall I design it? I'd go, right, what's in this box of stuff? What can I make from it? So I never have. There is definitely a value in a service like that. So if you're someone new to crafting or art or that, I would say, yes, go ahead and take a yearly subscription and probably only keep it going for a year if I was you. Because it will help you stockpile your resources, because those boxes will contain things that you probably would never have gone out and bought anyway. Some of the stuff in those boxes are probably going to be complete tosh and you wouldn't want to use them, but there's going to be little gems hidden in there, and basic supplies like stickers and papers and washi tapes and that can always be used. So if you're starting out and you have the budget to allow yourself to do a monthly subscription, I'd say do it. But I personally wouldn't keep it going for more than a year, because you're going to find that you are really going to get overwhelmed by supplies. Also, within a year, you're going to be discerning what your style of requirement is for the themes that you work within. you will find yourself drawn to maybe a certain brand or a certain style of papers or a certain brand of paints or a certain manufacturer of stamps and washi tape. So it's okay dipping your toe in the water, and it's a great way to build resources. I personally don't and never have. I am also in the very, very, very lucky position that because of the size of my social media reach, I have companies reach out to me quite regularly trying to give me stuff so that I will review it, and they hope I'm going to give them a positive review. I do it occasionally. I actually asked you, actually a couple of months ago, how you felt about me doing that, and the resounding response was, and thank you for that, was that you knew that with my integrity and honesty, I would only give an honest answer in a review, where there are some creators out there who will review anything just to get the free product. So you might see one or two more of those in my future, but I would only say yes to something if it was something I would naturally be using anyway. I think in January I'm doing a review of acrylic paint markers, and I've said yes to that because, as you can see behind me, there's my box of acrylic paint markers. I use them. If it was something like, oh, let's see if I can think of something. If it was a company that had maybe embossing powders and said, can you review these? I'd probably say no. I use embossing powders. I've got probably 5 colours, which is black, white, clear, gold, and maybe copper. Those are the only ones I ever seem to need. And I don't use them that often anyway, so I would turn that one down. So I think because I'm in that position, I don't feel I want to order a subscription. Also, location. I mean, here in the UK, I can order anything online, as most of us can, but I also have a very big hobbycraft within 15 minutes drive of me, so I can pop down and pick something up. There's also a couple of art supply stores close to me as well that I could walk to. So I'm in a very enviable situation that I can get supplies. Whereas if you live on a homestead or a farm in the back end of the wilderness, you don't have access to that, then maybe a subscription is the way that you need to go. So that was sort of hedging the bets a bit, and I was hopefully trying to give all sides of the discussion, not just one. So okay, next question. What sort of dancing did you used to do, and would I have seen any of those shows? Ooh. Okay, I took my very first dance class at 25 years old. Hugely, hugely, hugely late to start dancing, but I did it. I started by learning ballet and contemporary. What would you call contemporary nowadays? I think contemporary for some of you may be known as like interpretive dance, maybe, or some people might call it modern. Anyway, so I started with ballet and contemporary, as I call it. But because of my age, my body, we couldn't make me much more flexible than I was. If I'd have started as, say, a 10 or a 12-year-old, the body is still forming, I could have gained more flexibility. I did do quite well in things like ballet. I mean, I did corps de ballet with, I did Carmen, oh God, what was the other one? Swan Lake. I don't know whether I did Nutcracker, I can't remember. I did a few anyway, and I did a couple of little stints working with the Royal Ballet, more as like I commissioned someone in. I never performed with them, but I worked with them on a creative level. And then part the way through my training, it became very obvious that I was a musical theatre person. And bless the people that were heading the college I was at, they helped me transfer to another creative dance studio, which was more a theatre school. And I think there's a whole video on it here somewhere. If I can remember where that video is, I might try and stick it in. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think there is a video somewhere. I'm not sure though. If I can find it, you'll either see it in the description box or at the end of this video, you'll see a little thumbnail up in your right-hand corner of your screen will come up probably about 10 or 15 seconds before the end. If I can find it, I'll put it in there. And then I went to musical theatre and I never stopped working. I kept going. I was almost 44 years old when I finally said, it's time, and I retired. Emotionally, it wasn't time, but physically, I was getting more and more injured. And when you're about 15 years older than the rest of the cast, it can be hard on the body. Would you have seen me? You could potentially have seen me. I know I did a couple of television advertisements for British Airways. I appeared on Top of the Pops a couple of times, a Welsh version. I was in a feature film called Empire State, which was kind of a low budget B movie, and my main scene was cut. All that effort to learn lines, it got cut. But I'm still in there. I can see me. You wouldn't recognize me. I could stand in front of you with the way I looked back then. You would never recognize me. I did some theatre in Chicago. So if I was leading the witness for the prosecution, I was in something called Edwin Drood. I can't remember what that was. The Mysteries of Edwin Drood or something like that. Anyway, I was in stuff. Oh, I did My Fair Lady over there. That was in Chicago. You would see me in that. I popped up a lot. Like if you're in the UK, I toured with Daniel LaRue. I did summer season with him. I did pantomime with him. I worked with Freddie Davis. I dotted up all over the place. Basically, anyone's willing to pay me to perform, I'm there. I was your man. So could you do a beginner tutorial on shading and perspective on a collage piece? I think I'm going to take a rain check on that one because I need to actually understand the question before I can do it. So if it's a collage piece, shading would be with shadows around to give the illusion that pieces are in front of other pieces. That would be a fine one to do. Perspective on a collage piece. That would have to do with scale. To be honest with you, whoever asked that question, I will make a note of it and I'll think about it because I'm not 100% certain I could. And I had to be honest about it. I mean, obviously I know about perspective, I know about shading, I know about all of that lot, but to pull it together into a collage that potentially would have to be a scene of some sort. Anyway, it bears thinking about. Not avoiding the question, I just need to think about that one a little better. Have you found a better title for the the colour challenges? Actually, this must be quite an old question. When I started the collage challenge, which is what you're calling it, it was 3 years ago. We're just about to go into year 4, which is mind-blowing that something I created have gone that far, and it now is based in Makers of Mixed Media Art and Artist Group for PM Artist, indigestion, PM Artist Studio. Sorry, it's been a very long morning and it's only, 11 o'clock I think, and I've been up since 4, but that's, my brain wakes up early. Next year, I'm going to be launching it back on my own Facebook page, as well as in Makers of Mixed Media Art and Artist Group. There'll be a few twists of the tail in that. I always do it on YouTube as well, but at the very beginning, it was called the Color Challenge or something like that. And I didn't like the word challenge, and I didn't like it because challenge to me represented there was a right way to do it or a wrong way to do it, or there was a prize, or it was a hard thing. I wanted it to be more about exploring our creativity, about pushing myself and others outside of their comfort zone with certain color combinations. So what I ended up calling it was, it's known as the color combo. That's it. And that's what it's been called now for a couple of years. That's what it's going to be continued to be called, because it needs to be a color combo that's all encompassing. You can work in any medium you want: glass, ceramics, fabric, anything you want, paints, inks, watercolors, pencils, whatever you want, you can work within it. It's only there to try and push the envelope a little bit, just to go, you know, guys, maybe you've got to that point where you always reach for the same colors. I very often reach for the same colors. But I have discovered over the years, because I've done every one of them so far and will continue to, I have come across some very interesting color combinations. I've gone, I would never have thought of that. And on that note, it's mid December now. By the end of the month, I'm going to do my annual roundup. It'll come up as a Coffee with Ceri, but it'll be my annual roundup where I've analysed the whole year, look at what's worked, what hadn't worked so well. I will announce new things for next year, and one of the things I'm doing is I'm adding a twist to the colour combo. So I will announce that at the end of the month. So look out for that video. If you're a subscriber to me and you've done notifications, you will know, because everything I launch, you get notified of. You've always got the option of not watching it. It's not a forced viewing, but it'll be there. So watch out for that one. Okay. I told my husband about you because honestly, there aren't too many men out there who craft, and I was proud of you. Thank you. I was wondering how you discovered your love for it and how you handled the cultural stigma. Interesting question. I have always been creative. As a child, I was incredibly sick. I was a very chronic asthmatic. I spent more time in bed and in and out of hospitals I probably did in school. So my mother, to prevent me going stir crazy with boredom, would give me things like jigsaws to do, or there'd be small colouring books or craft projects. We didn't have a lot of money, probably very little money at all. So it was very much, it would be, here's a couple of toilet roll holders and some string and some paint. What can you make with that? Make me a creature or so. So I was always doing something. And I think the fact that I didn't have access to real arts and crafts supplies, it forced me to be very much, if I was allowed outside, if I was having a good day, I would scour the yard for stuff and go, oh, I'll use that. And I used to hoard little bits of treasure, and a bit like we do now, scraps and stuff like that. And glue was flour and water mixed together. Not the best of glue, but you know, back then it worked perfectly for me. Yeah, so it all stems from that. I've always been part of it. How have I dealt with the stigma? I've actually turned it into a positive for me. I knew that, I kept the fact that I was an arts and crafts or mixed media artist quiet for many years, because I was an internationally recognised cake decorator and designer, and my business mentor at the time said, keep everything else quiet, because if you tell people you do too many things, it will confuse your audience and it will actually diminish your standing within the industry, because they think you're just playing around. That's all changed, thank God. We all now cross-pollinate between all different creative fields, whether it's food or ceramics or whatever it is, we all cross-pollinate. So, which is why when COVID wiped my cake business out, I was more than happy to go, you know what? It's a sign. Let's just open the cupboard door on all my creativity and actually put it out there. I was trapped at home. Well, I was allowed to travel a little bit for TV shows, but I was trapped at home, and I went, you know what? Let's just take the risk and do this. And you embraced me, and thank you for it. but knowing that they weren't a huge amount of men, there are men out there. I've got men subscribed to my channel. Um, a lot of the time you will find that the men are out there, they're just in the background. Um, so if there's a company that's the head of the company or the face of that company is a woman, very often there's a male partner somewhere in there. Um, but because of, as you call it, the so-called stigma about it, they don't want to stand up and be in front of the camera. Me, I've spent most of my life in front of a camera. I didn't really give a damn. I just went, you know what, I'm going to do this. And as I said, I embraced the uniqueness of being a man in a predominantly woman's world at the time of arts and crafts. And I took it and I embraced it and I ran with it, and you were so supportive, and I love you for that. Um, Another stigma I've had is a lot of the time, because of my name, Ceri, a lot of people thought I was a woman anyway. And I'm like, does this look like a woman to you? You have not seen my videos, have you? So yes, I didn't really have to deal much with the stigma. I just totally ignored it. I went, you accept me or you don't accept me. I'm not here to prove a point. I'm here to be the most authentic version of myself that I can be, and I will do what I need to do. And through working within television shopping channels for the arts and crafts industry, I worked alongside quite a few very big female names in the arts and crafts world, and in doing so earned their respect by, you know what, you're not just a guy playing around, you do know your color theory, you do know what you're doing, you have a good founding in product knowledge. And in doing that, I was then offered opportunities from their companies as well to work. So yes, there's a little bit of a stigma, and I think there will always be a stigma. um, I don't know why the world tends to view arts and crafts as something feminine. Um, I can understand probably historically, back in the day when the man was the breadwinner and went out to work and the woman stayed at home and had to make the clothes and make the house pretty and stuff. And thank God that's changed as well. Um, I can understand the roots of it, but hopefully that's all settling into the background, and hopefully we're not fully there yet. But I think we should all be judged by, and judged is the wrong word actually, we should all be accepted for who and what we are, not whether we fit within a pigeonhole or a box or an acceptable title. Sorry, I'm becoming more political. Right, let's move on, because I could bury myself very deeply in that, and hopefully I'm not offending anyone in saying anything I'm saying. Okay, next question. Do you still dance? Up until about 3.5 months ago, I was actually doing a weekly ballroom dance class, because I do miss moving to music, dancing. Um, but my life changed this year, and if you know, you know. And I sort of stepped away with it from it, and I'm not 100% certain what the future will hold. But if you were a fly in the wall, sometimes when the music's in here, the body may be moving to it. Sometimes when I'm cooking in the kitchen, the CD player's on, you never know, one may be boogieing. So yeah, I'd still like to move. I still enjoy music. I would love to be able to dance the way I used to dance, but to be honest with you, my body's broken. I can't do a fraction of what I used to do. And part of that is the fact that I started too late. I forced my body to do things that someone at my age should not have been doing. Do I regret it? Heck no. I loved every single minute of my performing life. I love dancing. There will be times, to say I'm at a party, which isn't very often, and someone puts music on, yeah, maybe I'll get up and have a boogie if I really wanted to. So hopefully that answered that one. Okay, next question. If you could spend a week learning from any artist that has work at your favourite museum, who would it be? Ooh, Ooh, ooh. Who would I? The question is, are they dead or alive? Obviously, I'm not going to spend time with a dead person, but do you know what I mean? It's like if I had a time machine and I could spend a week with someone, who would it be? I don't know. I mean, part of me would love to say I'd love to go and spend time with someone like Picasso or Van Gogh or Matisse, but I don't see, other than experiencing their company, I don't know what I would glean from that as a learning experience if I could only do it once. Um, there are lots of contemporary artists out there that I probably can't name that I might go for. Actually, do you know what I think? And I can't name the person because I can't, for the brain of me has just shut down on me. I think I would probably spend a week with a historical photographer, because photography is all about light, it's all about shade, composition. I think it would be a photographer. And there's some amazing photographers out there. I mean, the list is far too long, but I surprisingly wouldn't go for an arts and crafts person, possibly not an artist. But in saying that, I've just eliminated everyone I'm going to say, because I think anyone who's in a creative field is an artist. Um, it would be a photographer. And I think it may be a photographer that worked in the golden years of Hollywood, to understand how they converted the enormity, that's the wrong word, the enormous world of vintage Hollywood onto film. I think that's how I would answer that. Um, Bit of a vague answer, but I think you know where I'm going with that. I mean, I did a couple of years ago, I did a night class where I learned black and white photography all the way through to processing my own pictures. It was alchemy. It was absolutely fascinating. I wanted to understand and learn the chemical process for doing it, because the world is switching, or has switched predominantly now, to digital photography. For me, I wanted to understand how to do it for real, because if I could understand values and depth of field and aperture sizes, it would help me moving forward with my photography in the future. And I love photography. There's so much beautiful photography out there. So yes, it would probably be a historical photographer, um, that worked in like the golden years of Hollywood. Okay, last question. What is the best way to keep Fabri-Tac glue from drying out? Use it. Sorry, that's a horrible way to answer that. I have never had a problem with it drying out. Um, I think it's because I do use it quite often. It's not something that is hanging around a lot. Now, I do know that as the bottle begins to empty, within, can I reach mine? I can't reach mine. When the bottle begins to empty, of course, the less glue you've got in the bottle, more air you've got in the bottle, and the air is what will make Fabri-Tac become thicker, because of course the chemicals in it are evaporating. Arguably, you could decant it into a smaller bottle, although I think that would be a heck of a sticky process. Oh, hiccups again. A heck of a sticky process to do, but that would be one way. Um, I have heard said that if your Fabri-Tac starts to get too thick, to put some, oh God, what is it called? I think it's acetone, like nail varnish remover. If you put a little bit of that in it, I believe that's one of the chemicals within it that you could thin it back down again with. But I'm not sure that I have a legitimate answer to you. I always keep my bottle sealed. I don't leave it open unless I accidentally leave it open. I do use Fabri-Tac. I go through probably 2, maybe 3 bottles of Fabri-Tac a year. So hopefully that's answered. If anyone in the comments actually has any ideas that could give feedback to this question, by all means write it in the comments for me. And anyone who's watching this, if you are the person who asked that question, have a skim down the comments. Give it about a week for people to have watched this and answered it, and have a skim down. There may be a solution to it, but as I said, I've not had a problem with it drying out, and I'm assuming you mean drying out in the bottle, because I've never hit a problem where it's dried out. When it's dried, it's dried, it's solid, it's there. I've not had a problem with that from there. So anyway, so that was my top 10, my 10 questions for this month. Again, watch the video that I'm going to launch, the annual roundup video. There's going to be some slight changes to this Ask Ceri thing moving forward. And as I said, I'm going to put the call out probably February, March time-ish for the next round of questions, which you'll find I'll put the questions, the call out in my community tab, which is in my YouTube channel. So thank you very much, guys. Anyone who is celebrating, happy holidays to you. Anyone who's not of the persuasion for Christmas, then have a wonderful winter December if you're in my hemisphere. If you're in the other hemisphere, put the sun cream on, kids. Let's not burn ourselves in Australia, shall we? So anyway, that's enough from me. I will see you next time, guys. Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.